I grew up reading a lot of fantasy and a lot of history. And I always thought I'd love to be able to combine my two loves that I read and find a way to make a great story. And I find there's a lot of similarities between fantasy and history. You're looking back and you're getting a view on a whole different world. And I wanted to create one. And I'm also a military historian, so I spent a lot of time reading military history and events, wars, campaigns, the life of the soldier. And I wanted to try and take that and put it into a fantasy context and explore what it was like for the regular soldier in one of these great big epic adventures where there's princes and wizards and magic, but what's the average soldier experience? What's his experience like in one of these big epic adventures? There's no question that as an editor of military history, I work with a lot of veterans, soldiers who have been in combat all the way back to World War II. I really wanted to bring that to a fantasy world. Not all the horrors exactly, but I did want to do justice to what it's like. We'll see the big battles in the movies or read them in the books, but there's aftermath and there's a lot of psychological consequences to being exposed to violence, to trauma, and it's not something that is easily dealt with, whether it's a fantasy world or our world. And I really wanted to do justice to the soldiers I work with by portraying what they go through, even though it's my created world. I mean, history is just endlessly fascinating. It's the closest thing that we have to a time machine. You pick up any kind of history book and immediately you're transported to another place, another time. And I've always been fascinated by that process, and fantasy is really quite similar. You pick up a fantasy book and one can look at the classics like Lord of the Rings, and Tolkien has taken us to another place, another time. Now, it's mythos, it's created, it's fiction, and yet it was based on a lot of real history that he studied. And a lot of fantasy does that. A lot of fantasy authors today have used historical events as a basis, as inspiration, and I wanted to do the same thing. And I see the similarities, so it just was a perfect fit.